Labour is also ripping up its definition of Islamophobia. But is all as it seems? Because I think there's a little bit of misleading headlines here. Oh, of course, Andrew. We can't get away from Prince Andrew, can we? He is all over the front pages, and new allegations are bringing the Met Police and getting them embroiled in it. Kemi Badenoch has said the Prime Minister's been untruthful. Oh, so much to dig into. See you in a minute.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry to become a winner. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Brave.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong, and this is Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition.
Yeah, I think stuff to do with family overwhelms me quite a bit. You know, worry or stress around family side of things, that does overwhelm me quite a bit.
Well, the family like his, no wonder Prince William is overwhelmed by his own family. That's as reports emerge. The Prince of Wales wants Andrew to be punished further. Plus, on the front page of The Express, Labour's sentencing shake-up could lead to thousands of perverts being freed early from prison. Goodness gracious me. And
never say what's coming next. There are things coming next, and not.
yes, as predicted to Bev Turner on The Late Show live last night, new emails have further exposed these damning claims on the disgraced Prince Andrew, who will not be indicted in this scandal. Plus, the one story that can't be knocked off the front pages for the Prime Minister, can it? The China spy scandal. As the Times reveals, the suspect was caught with a suitcase full of cash. Islamophobia, we've been hearing a lot about that, but on the front page of The Telegraph tonight, we are seeing that Labour are planning to scrap the definition altogether. But not all is as it seems. Trust me, we'll be digging into that, and I'll be doing it with this brilliant panel. Journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee, former Labour Party advisor Paul Richards, and GB News comedian Leo Kearse.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom. It's reported the Prince of Wales is not satisfied with the outcome of Prince Andrew no longer using his royal titles and will take a more ruthless approach, potentially banning him from his future coronation. The Sunday Times reports Prince William was consulted on the decision that led Andrew to be stripped of his dukedom. It added that William will also ban Andrew's ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, from royal events, but their daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, will still be welcome at family and official gatherings. Kensington Palace has declined to comment. In the last 5 minutes, some breaking news. The US State Department has informed the guarantor nations of the Gaza peace agreement of credible reports indicating an imminent ceasefire violation by Hamas against the people of Gaza. It says if it goes ahead with the attack, measures will be taken to protect the people of Gaza and preserve the ceasefire. Meanwhile, Hamas has announced it will hand over the bodies of 2 more Israeli hostages tonight. They have so far returned all 20 living hostages, but just 10 of the 28 deceased, claiming they're struggling to locate bodies under rubble. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt will remain closed until all hostages are returned home. More than 2,500 demonstrations are being held across the US to express opposition to Donald Trump's policies. Organisers of the No Kings protests expected millions of people to turn out at the events to challenge what they see as the president's authoritarian tendencies. Republicans, though, have described the rallies as anti-American. The Governor of the Bank of England is warning Brexit will have a negative impact on the UK's economic growth for the foreseeable future. Andrew Bailey blamed a decline in the UK's potential growth rate from 2.5 to 1.5% over the past 15 years on an ageing population, trade restrictions and post-Brexit economic policies. Speaking at an international banking seminar, Mr Bailey said he'd been careful not to take a position on Brexit thus far, but when asked what the impact is, the truth is negative. He did, however, add that the economy is likely to find balance again in the longer term. A new blood test could help speed up diagnosis for more than 50 types of cancer. That's according to a new study in the US, which has found the Gallery test correctly picked up a wide range of cancers at an early stage before symptoms appear. It's also highly accurate in ruling out cancer. The test is being trialled on the NHS and could change the way screening is carried out for the disease. Ange Postecoglou has been sacked as head coach of Nottingham Forest after less than 40 days in the position. His last match ended in a 3-0 home defeat to Chelsea, the 6th loss of his short tenure. He failed to win any of the 8 games in charge of the team. Forest owner is now looking for their 3rd manager this season. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in an hour's time.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to the late edition, everybody. Let's go through your front pages and then get stuck into all the news on there, because there's a lot more than meets the eye here. Let's start with The Sun, shall we? The Sun. Andrew axes Fergie's party. No wonder why. I was surprise, eh? The Daily Mail. Andrew told the Met to dig up dirt on Virginia. Yeah, this has been a big story tonight. We'll be digging back into that at some point. The Independent. Ukraine can't beat Russia, warns top British Army chief. The Observer. He lied to me about Epstein. There you go, Emily Maitlis making it all about herself. The Mirror, Virginia's revenge on Andrew. Of course, that's her memoir coming out soon. The Telegraph, Andrew sought to dig up dirt. The Express, thousands of perverts to be freed from jail early. We're certainly going to be talking about that. Sunday Times, spy suspect was stopped with suitcase full of cash. Well, let's get the thoughts of my star panel tonight. Linda, Jubilee, Paul, Richards and Leo Kirst. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me. Should we start with something a little bit different? Because we've done a lot of Prince Andrew, and I as much as there's lots to dig into. I think we should just give it a little bit of space, shall we? Let's talk perhaps about where should we start? Thousands of perverts to be freed.
I thought we were going to do a different story to Prince Andrew. Now this is
very good.
This is it's good news for him if he gets sent down. He's not going to be in for very long. This is Labour making space in their jails by releasing thousands of paedophiles to make space for people who are tweeted for having people who are jailed for tweeting or having Brexity books or anything else that Labour have decided is a crime. I think this is appalling. I think as a society we're sort of losing sight of what's a crime and what isn't a crime. We're policing and jailing a lot of people for thought crimes, opinions, speech crimes, which wouldn't be anywhere near the foothills of criminality in a civilised country like America. But in this country, because we're living under this sort of quasi-Soviet system, people get sent down, and it's horrible. It means the population has to live in fear. So under the Soviet Union, you had laws that anybody could be seen to have contravened, so everybody lived in fear of them, and the system could just pick and choose who they applied them to. And you can see that the double standards in this country with people escaping, evading jail, and other people getting sent to jail.
Absolutely. Paul, I'll come straight to you on this one, because of course there is a lot of criticism thrown to Labour at this, and I do hold the Tories responsible, because they obviously endorsed these laws and they didn't do anything to change them. But I saw an example of this today, and I'm not going to go too much into the detail, but there was a journalist who posted something on X, the platform, and a Secretary of State took it upon themselves to call out that journalist for having this opinion, and that they call the opinion racist. Now, I don't think it's the place of Secretaries of State to be going after journalists in this country, and I think it sends a really chilling message. If we don't like what you say, we're going to publicly, go after you. I think this is the sort of stuff you'd criticise Trump for, but, it seems like Labour is demonstrating the things that Leo's talking about.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, isn't there? Good heavens! I don't think we're.
Just start with a broad stroke, shall we?
I don't think we're living in a Soviet-style economy. I think we are a free democratic country. First of all,
but that's because you're not subject to these horrific laws. You're on the side of the people executing these laws.
Second of all, I think that Secretaries of State, if they so choose, can go onto social media and make their views known. They are citizens, same as the rest of us. So you can't ban politicians from X or anywhere else. That's fine. I mean, I personally loathe it, but some people enjoy it, don't they? But third of all, this story, this is what we're supposed to be talking about. There's a word in there that I'll draw everyone's attention to. It's doing an awful lot of heavy lifting, and the word is could. It says could be released. It doesn't say will be. It doesn't say are going to be. It doesn't say next week. It says
no, it does.
It says could.
No, it says around 2,000 paedophiles will be let out of prison early every year under Labour's controversial sentencing reform.
And then it says could, doesn't it? Because
well, yeah, I mean,
and you said could in your intro too,
because child sex abusers could be let out.
My point being, this is not something that is going to happen. It's something that is. This is something that has been.
You had to say that on GBNews.
It's been speculated upon.
We're definitely not.
Speculation. Anyway, it's a load of nonsense, and it's just speculation.
But it's already happened. We saw last year. We saw people being let out of jail early.
And whose fault was that, Leo? Because the prisons were chock full because of the Tories.
Well, maybe they wouldn't be so full if we didn't lock up people for tweets and opinions.
Well, how many of those are there compared to actual criminals being locked up for crimes?
Well, Linda, I'll bring you into this discussion because it is worrying, because we have seen a massive surge in rapes, in sexual assaults in this country. And I take Paul's point. I mean, the Tories are massively to blame for not building more prisons, but bringing millions of people into the country. What happens when you massively blow up the population? You're going to get more criminals amongst them. It's just very simple economic maths and economics, isn't it? But at the same time, perhaps Labour should use some of the energy we had during COVID. We built these Nightingale hospitals very quickly. We repurposed unuseful areas and we turned them in. We could do the same to perhaps house some of these lesser dangerous. I'm not these are people, of course, they're dangerous, but they're not murderers, are they? So perhaps we could put them in slightly different security facilities and stop letting them all out.
Let's just go back a bit, because although we've seen, as you said, a big surge in allegations of rape and sex abuse, we haven't seen a massive surge in convictions in those crimes.
True.
And I think we ought to remember that. Now, the fact of the matter is that prisons were full when it came to the end of Rishi Sunak's term. I mean, the suggestion has been made that he actually called the election early because one of the factors was the prisons were so full. But that's not entirely the Conservative Party's fault. It's not really the Labour Party's fault now. This is because a long time ago we weren't building facilities, we weren't building prisons, we did not make a long-term plan. We were too short-termist in our thinking. All politicians were. But one of the things I think we could do is exactly that, is take what we were going to do with those Nightingale hospitals and start using facilities like that as at least detention centres, and certainly somewhere where you could incarcerate minor offenders. I mean, I don't think there are going to be 2,000 paedophiles released, but I would definitely think that more prisoners will be released, and amongst that number, there will be sex offenders.
I certainly agree. Let's move on to a slightly different story now, because there are a headline here on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph, on the bottom, sorry, should I say, not the headline, the bottom of underneath the headline, Labour tears up Islamophobia definition. Now, look, on the headline, on that title itself, you think, wow, what a victory, we've won, all that pressure, all the people who wrote into the public consultation, who have made their voice. I mean, I've been very against it. Lots of people, lots of panellists here, lots of you at home have told us that you're not for it, of course, and you're very concerned about free speech. However, this is not all as it seems, because, I mean, you can just literally read the small print here. Labour has torn up its definition of Islamophobia amid fears it could threaten free speech. However, party working group has drawn up new wording, keywords there, that will replace the controversial definition it adopted in 2019, substituting the term Islamophobia for anti-Muslim hate. I don't know about you, Liam, but it kind of sounds like the same thing.
I think we need to be removing the hate laws and speech laws and all the rest of it rather than adding to them, because they're always very, very ill-defined. And the Islamophobia definition they put forward would have basically criminalised any sort of legitimate discussion or criticism of Islam and Islamism. And, you know, I don't know if you've noticed what's been happening in Britain, never mind the rest of the world, but Islamism is a bit of a problem. I mean, if people are allowed to be arachnophobic, what's a spider going to do? Just scuttle out from under the couch? People are allowed to be arachnophobic. Imagine if Osama bin Laden scuttled out from under your couch. You're going to be terrified.
It'd be explosive, I would have thought.
And then you go upstairs and Abu Hamza's in the bath and he can't get out. Just scrambling at the sides. He's got hooks for hands.
Quite good at opening doors, actually. You never know.
But then you've got to try and get him in a pint glass with a bit of cardboard underneath.
I can't read this out. I mean, so the problem I've got here, Paul, best mates, of course, former Tory MP Dominic Grieve, who's been doing all this definition work, has said that Muslimness will not be in there and Islamophobia won't be in there. That doesn't mean that free speech is protected anyway. This is a clever way of telling people, and I think I love the Telegraph. They've done a very bad job of this headline here, because it actually isn't getting rid of the whole definition. They're still going ahead with it. They're just getting rid of some words that we're all scared of.
Well, the enormous landmine that the government has to avoid is a return to blasphemy laws, whereby we can't criticise a religion and things about a religion that we might find bizarre or weird or whatever it is. And so they've managed, I think, what seems to be in the briefing here, and it's a source close to the inquiry, who the hell's that, who knows. But anyway, the suggestion is I think they're going to dodge that. That's not to say that there aren't people in this country who are being attacked because they are Muslim. Right, and so the law has to cover them as citizens and to make sure that doesn't happen.
If they're being attacked, then that's already against the law.
Exactly. Which is why they're not going to come out with a new law or a new definition that takes us anywhere different to where we are now.
What's the point? What a waste of time and money. And this is the problem. But this is what I mean. It's just a waste, Paul. It's just more ideological waste. And the only let's face it.
But if tonight we were debating the fact that they've just announced it, you'd be even more upset. So the fact they've avoided,
I certainly would be. But they sort
of have it both ways.
They have not announced it, and they have announced it at the same time. They've just changed some words.
I just think
my problem is all of this rubbish needs to get completely thrown out the door, because as Leo correctly said, these laws exist to protect people. We don't need specific... I mean, where's my hate speech laws, eh? Where's my white British hate speech laws, Linda?
Oh, yeah, they should have a gammon one.
Yeah, I want that next. I want gammonism. Gamophobia.
I tell you what gets
Gamophobia, should we have that?
I tell you what gets me about all of this is there is this constant debate and argument about definitions, when actually, right now, we're like 5 minutes to midnight. If you listen to Sir Ken McCallum, from the head of MI5 last week, talk about, for example, the Chinese threat that he is dealing with on a daily basis, and all the other threats, and including the threat of Islamic terrorism, is right at the top of the list. What we've got to be dealing with is real policies, real drive and strategy to combat the reality of what's going on, and we shouldn't be fiddling while Rome burns over definitions. I think it's completely wrong.
It's completely bonkers, isn't it? Well, there you have it. Coming up, the former editor of the Sunday Express is going to be joining us, David Wooding, to go through some of these insane headlines today. Bev Turner's also coming on the show because there's a lot of Trump noise happening from... I can hear it across the oceans, actually. So we'll be hearing from Bev about what's going on over there. Tony Blair's back, everyone. He's back again. He just won't go away, will he? Will this Islamophobia definition do anything? Kemi Badenoch's called the Prime Minister untruthful. Oh, so much to get into. I'll see you in 2.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christys. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
MTV has been axed. It's going to close all of its music channels around the world, except in the US as part of massive cuts.
I'm absolutely traumatised.
This is a big thing for Mark. So, Mike, the thing is that stars including Kelly Brook, Emma Willis, Cat Deely, Greg James and Joel Dommett all got on the station in their early careers. And for you, this is a big moment.
I was living in New York when it started, and my friends couldn't believe it. I was ringing them up and telling them about this video channel. Billy Joel, Uptown Girl, that video was made in the street on First Avenue, near my apartment in New York. And, of course, favourite pub question is always, what was the first music video on MTV? The answer is... Radio killed the radio star. Video killed the Boogles.
Yes.
Was it the Boogles?
I'm really upset that MTV is shutting, but I can't remember the last time I watched it, and I think that might be the problem.
Well, sorry, I'll show my maturity now.
Okay.
In the old days, there was just one MTV with all these great videos, you know, Paul McCartney, Billy Joel, Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
In recent years, they've streamed it into MTV 70s, MTV 80s, and MTV 70s is regularly on my TV at home in every room when I'm feeling good.
Oh, I bet it is. But also they branched out into, like, reality television shows.
Yeah.
16 and Pregnant, MTV Cribs.
And I think that's the thing that they're keeping.
Yeah.
But it is the streaming service. That's what.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Please.
Welcome back to Late Edition with me, Alex Armstrong. Now, each week, I like to run through the papers with some of the sharpest minds we have been lucky to be graced by with Fleet Street. Well, the legends of Fleet Street, should I say. And tonight, I'm delighted to welcome back the former editor of the Sunday Express, David Wooding. David, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Now, there's a man who keeps on gracing our front pages, and it's not Prince Andrew, actually, believe it or not, because he does too, but it's Tony Blair. He's back again. There's years that go by where I don't hear from this bloke, and I'm quite happy, actually, I have to admit. And then all of a sudden, he's in the newspapers every single week. What is he asking us about this time? I believe this is on the front page of The Telegraph, right?
That's right, yeah. There's one thing anybody doesn't want is somebody who had their... If you're a newspaper editor, you don't want the former editor telling you how rotten your paper is. And if you're the Prime Minister, you don't want somebody who sat in number 10 having a go at you. And Tony Blair's having two digs tonight. This one, which you mentioned earlier on the front of the Sunday Telegraph, in which he says that the Prime Minister should cut tax, the higher rate of income tax, the 40p rate for higher earners. And he's saying that, you know, the Laffer curve, this is the theory by an American economist, that the higher you put taxes up, the less money you get because people find a way to avoid it. Or move out the country, and this is quite damaging, or it's quite challenging for Sir Keir Starmer. He needs this like a hole in the head. The other one is inside the Mail on Sunday. He's touching on that other sensitive issue as well as tax, which is immigration, and he's saying that. Very much at odds with what the current Prime Minister is doing. He said that people who enter Britain illegally shouldn't be allowed to claim asylum. Now, this is in line not only with Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader's thinking, but also in line with Donald Trump, who, through the US removals force, has taken something like 750,000 people out. So, yeah, he's having... He's put himself at odds with the current incumbent twice in one day tomorrow.
I mean, you can't make it up, David, because funnily enough, I mean, I remember when Blair was... obviously, he did a big thing about immigration about a year ago, just before Labour got into office, and then there was all sort of like, Labour were like, nah, we're not going to pay attention to him. And he, of course, digital ID, then they said, nah, we're not going to pay attention to him. And since then, what we have seen, actually, is them actually getting on board with some of Blair's ideas, particularly on digital ID, of course. But now to see them, I wonder how long it is. I really do with this government. You never know, do you, David? But I want to bring the panel back in a second to these stories. So let's just get on to the next one, and then we'll go back and we'll circle back round, David. But of course, the China route, another pain in the neck. Not just Tony Blair, but the Chinese are a pain in the neck for Keir Starmer too, because the Times reporting there was cash found in a suitcase, and that Kemi Badenoch has also claimed that she thinks the PM's lying. What should we make of all this?
Yes. Kemi Badenoch is saying in the Telegraph that some of the explanations that the Prime Minister has uttered in the last week or so, and there have been several explanations, none of which seem to add up, particularly when you compare them with what different people are saying, like the Director of Public Prosecution's Office. She's saying that they are categorically untrue. And then, of course, in the Sunday Times, the one which you have on the screen there now, they're saying that Christopher Berry, one of the two accused men in the trial, which has now not gone ahead, was found in Heathrow with £2,000 in cash. Now, don't forget, he'd met the fifth most senior Chinese leadership man in one of his visits, and there's a mention in there as well about something like 30-odd pieces of information had passed hands. And we've also got the Speaker of the House of Commons, Lindsay Hoyle, who really is getting quite heated about this. He said something a few days ago. And in the Sunday Times tomorrow, he's saying the RMP, the spying was going on in the heart of Westminster, and RMPs were all the targets. And of course, not long after all this happened, 5 MPs were sanctioned by the Chinese regime, and this could have been because of information about their discussions about how Britain should distance itself from Beijing had got back to the regime.
It certainly seems to be the case, David. I mean, you know, the funny thing about all this 4K to be a traitor to your country, I mean, I think that's a pretty low price, to be quite honest with you. But there we go, each to their own.
Yes.
David, I'll bring in the panel here. I've got Linda with me, I've got Paul and Leo. Linda, would you like to start? We'll talk about either this China story, or perhaps we could talk about of course, Blair getting involved, Tony Blair.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Where do I start, Dave? You know, what really puzzles me about this China story is when is it going to actually end? You know, it's got legs, and so far it hasn't run out of steam. The fact that someone carries in £4,000 of cash into an airport from China but I thought that would be illegal for anyone to do, actually. And what was that money for? What were the 30 documents? What were the 10 documents that related to really secure issues? Why aren't we doing anything about this? I really don't understand why the government doesn't actually maybe restart the trial. I mean, it can't be double jeopardy because the original trial didn't start. So why aren't we getting to grips with this?
Well, the implication all along has been that the government doesn't want this trial to go ahead because it is damaging to relations with China. We are in hock to China because they have their fingers in every infrastructure pie over here. The Hinkley C power station in Somerset is all being carried out. They've got 35% stake in that. And of course, at one stage, Huawei, the Chinese 5G network, were involved in producing our network here, but that was only stopped. I think it was Theresa May, if my memory serves me correctly. But yes, the suggestion is that the government doesn't want this trial to go ahead, and that's where the nub of this story lies. The CPS, Crime Prosecution Service, and Number 10 are at odds over what's happened, and as they argue, new facts come out. And I mean, there must be panic stations in Number 10 because they know the whole picture, and they must be wondering what really explosive bit of nugget is going to get out next.
You see, can I just say, we know that the government is dancing on a pinhead over this because it is all about the balance of the economic situation and the security situation. But really, it's one thing after another. You look at the plans to build the new Chinese embassy in the old Royal Mint, a legacy building in this country, and that looks like it's going to go ahead, even though it's so close to 2 data centres, which are in our financial district. I mean, at some point, we have to show the Chinese some sort of mettle and not kowtow every 5 minutes.
Yes, and that building, the result or the decision on that was supposed to have been announced last week. That's now been put back to November. But one wonders what's going on there. The government must know, of course, if they give this the go-ahead, then that's going to create another row anyway. And if they don't give it the go-ahead, then China is really going to get the hump. So they're on a hiding to nothing on this one.
Leo, what did you prefer to talk about, Tony Blair or China?
Yeah, I mean, Tony Blair is a great one. I mean, I think Tony Blair suggested we should cut the 40p tax rate. I think the top tax rate is well above. It's like 45 pence or something. And he straight up says it's an incentive to get people working because, you know, you're not going to go and do a job. You're not going to take time that you could spend sitting on the couch having a nice time with your family if you've got to, you know, give half of the money to leftists who are going to spray it up the wall. And I think that's the thing that hurts people paying tax in this country. Is so much of it is wasted. We see it, you know, getting spent on hotels for people coming across in small boats and stuff. I'd understand if it was all going to, you know, kidney dialysis machines for a children's hospital, but it's obviously not. It's all getting sprayed on just the most nonsensical stuff. Do you think this could possibly signal a return to actual, you know, almost sort of capitalist Thatcherite economics for the Labour Party?
No, I don't think it will, unfortunately. I think the problem the government has is this black hole when, you know, they say it's of the Conservatives making, and the Conservatives say, well, hang on a minute, there wasn't a black hole as big as the one there is now because of the last budget. So Rachel Reid has got three choices. One, she either puts up taxes through stealth, she hits the really wealthy with a wealth tax, or thirdly, she breaks the election promises, because the chances are, you know, she has to raise this money. And the only other option is to make massive cuts. And that just isn't in the Labour playbook. They've already said they're going to, they've already reversed on benefit cuts, which is one of the biggest places, the biggest black holes for taking money from taxpayers. So I think this is a no-no. I think Tony Blair's just speaking a bit of common sense, and it'll just go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, it's not quite just a black hole, super massive black hole now, isn't it? Paul, where would you like to go on this, Tony Blair or China?
Well, I think there's no way on God's earth that embassy needs to be built where it is. The big call that Steve Reid needs to make now is to say to the Chinese, well, you can have your embassy, but not there. Possibly a trading estate in Slough or somewhere like that, where they might have the space, you know. And I think it might be more likely for that to happen, not the Slough bit, but for them to be denied this planning permission, because the government needs to look tough now in the light of all of the stuff around the collapsed trial. I mean, Dave, you're talking to MPs, I'm talking to MPs. There's a lot of disquiet about Parliament being spied on, infiltrated, people being bribed to betray their countries. No wonder Lindsay Hoyle was absolutely, he's the Speaker, you know, incandescent about this when the trial collapsed in the chamber. He was absolutely furious and has been furious ever since. So that's the China thing. On Blair, though, I think it's rather marvellous. I love Tony Blair, and I'm glad that he's speaking up and suggesting his ideas, because he's only 72, you know. He's 8 years younger than Donald Trump, so maybe it's still time for him to come back.
Oh, God forbid. God forbid. There'll be people waking up in the middle of the night, hot sweats, listening. They can hear the radio play. They're not going to sleep tonight with that kind of nonsense going on. David, any final thoughts on Blair? Will he make a comeback?
Well, I'd love it. I'd love to see Tony Blair come back and Boris Johnson come back for the Conservatives. Wouldn't that be a battle royale? It would be absolutely superb, and it would be with Nigel Farage thrown in the middle of it. What an election that would be. But that's a dream election, isn't it?
Let's dig up Nick Clegg while we're at it as well, eh? Why not? For a good measure, the Royal Rumble of political leaders. Thank you so much, David Wooding. What a legend. Thank you so much for joining us on the panel tonight. Listen, coming up, we've got a lot more on the show, of course. Let me just get to you this video, though.
She hears about the death of Jeffrey Epstein in that prison cell in 2019. She says, the news hit me with an almost physical force. Some might imagine I'd be happy that Epstein was dead, but I wasn't. And she goes on to say she was grieving the death of my ability to be accountable for what he had done.
Well, we're going to cross live to Washington, D.C. as Bev Turner brings us part 2 of her extraordinary interview with Rob Acrilli, who exposes what Virginia Giuffre's bombshell memoir says. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, late edition.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The best place to be across the Mediterranean at the moment is Italy. A lot of fine weather following some wet conditions earlier in the week. That wet weather now moving into Greece, and another spell of rain on the way for parts of Portugal, northwest Spain as well. A damp spell here, but with southwesterly winds, temperatures actually above average. And then this gap in systems through the central part of the Mediterranean. Plenty of sunshine through Italy. Rain clouds clearing into Greece. Very wet indeed for Athens.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, low pressure is returning, bringing outbreaks of rain and stronger winds, followed by blustery showers as we go through tomorrow and into the new week. So we lose this area of our high pressure that's moving its way eastwards, replaced by low pressure
out to the west. So back to the rest of this evening. The clearest skies and holding on to the driest conditions across eastern areas. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain, heaviest and most persistent, moving in from the west, especially across Northern Ireland and the far southwest into Devon and Cornwall. Otherwise, with the strong winds, the cloud, the outbreaks of rain, it is going to be a mild start to Sunday morning. So having a look at Sunday morning across Scotland, that's where we hold on to some glimmers of brightness first thing across the far north, but out to the west, that's where we're already seeing outbreaks of rain. Now, the heaviest rain is going to be across Northern Ireland, most persistent here, especially to the south and east. That's where there is a yellow Met Office warning, where we could see some localised flooding in places. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain again across western areas, but drier to the southeast of England to start Sunday morning. But that will soon be replaced by cloud and outbreaks of rain as this band of rain pushes its way north and eastward. So as we come into Sunday afternoon, many places seeing a pretty unsettled end to the weekend. But there will be some glimmers of sunshine just coming in to the far southwest of England and Northern Ireland later on in the day. Otherwise, temperatures holding up around 15 or 16 degrees. So through Monday, we hold on to the area of low pressure, some strong winds across the south, but also some blustery showers, heavy and possibly thundery, driest across Scotland, where we'll see some sunshine. We'll hold on to some showers on Tuesday, but generally a bit drier, and then some longer spells of rain for some of us on Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the late edition, everybody. Now, if you missed the Late Show Live last night, what were you doing? Because Bev had an exclusive after exclusive on the Prince Andrew story, and she spoke with Liz Truss, a global interviewer, Daphne Barrack, and The Telegraph's US correspondent, Rob Crilly, who has read the explosive memoir from Virginia Giuffre. Take a look at this.
I can make a case for either suicide or murder. You know, the official story is he committed suicide. He took his own life in his prison cell. But I think that the key thing to me is she builds the case for why somebody might have wanted him dead. And this is what she said. He'd always suggested to me that those videotapes he so meticulously collected in the bedrooms and bathrooms of his various houses gave him power over others. He explicitly talked about using me and what I'd been forced to do with certain men as a form of blackmail. So these men would owe him favours.
Wow. I mean, it's bombshell stuff, isn't it? It really, really is. And joining me now ahead of the Late Show Live starting at midnight tonight is GB News' superstar, Bev Turner. Bev, listening to that interview there, absolutely mind-blowing stuff. Have you got more?
Yes, we do. So Rob Crilly is the journalist from the Daily Telegraph who was the only person to see the book before it hits the shelves. He came in last night. He's going to be in again tonight to give us more exclusives. I think the deal to keep Virginia Giuffre quiet until the coronation or the Jubilee, was over is very interesting because how does that reflect on the rest of the royal family? The reverberations about that actually might be quite significant. We are also going to be talking about protests. And Alex, I'm a little disappointed in you today. because I had faith that you would be at the protest in London today about digital ID. So what is your explanation for the fact that you weren't there?
It's actually Prince Andrew's fault, believe it or not, because he took my camera away from me and I was there. I was ready to go, Bev, and I would have been there, and I did apologise to people today. But the next one, you know, Bev, as much as I do, I will be there. I try to go as many as I can, but I had no camera. What could I do?
I know. Well, you know, needs must, I guess. But I will do what you failed to do today, Alex. I'm going to be taking pictures from the protest today. I'm going to be talking to the organiser. Why are so many people in the UK so keen to go out and talk about digital ID? What are their fears? And there's been massive protests across America today. Anti-Trump protests. They're called No Kings Here, which is weird branding. This obviously does not. We don't have kings here in America. This is a republic, but it's about Donald Trump, and they think that he's seizing powers that he shouldn't have. So we're going to be talking about both of those protests on the show today. And they've banned the burqa in Portugal, another European country to ban the burqa. Is that something that we should be doing? Is it something that America should be thinking about doing? And we've got a phenomenal story. I love this story. This is going to go viral, I'm sure. Not many people have noticed at the moment, but it's a journalist from Memphis who was working for an outlet and noticed that on her streets, the National Guard were making everything much, much safer. And she said so, and she got the sack. Again, It's this Trump derangement syndrome. So it's a free speech story. It's about crime. It's about the difference between America and the UK, and how people who don't like Donald Trump, when he brings safety to their streets, surprisingly, they have to say, yeah, this is better. This is actually affecting my quality of life. So all of that. And you are forgiven, Alex Armstrong, for not being there.
Thanks, Bev. Thanks. The next one, I will be there at that protest. But can I ask you something? Because I know our audience will be really interested in this, and I'd love for you to dig into it tonight. I'll be watching. And it's whether America has the same Islamist threat that we do. Now, I was playing earlier on the show some clips of this cleric in a mosque in Birmingham. He was sort of obviously talking about how to stone a woman to death who's committed adultery. Do Americans perceive this threat as much as we do?
No, and that is because they have not accepted as many Muslim people into this country. There are some cities and states which are heavily, predominantly, monoculturally Islamic, but they are very, very few and far between. They've got so much more landmass here, of course, Alex. It isn't considered to be the same sort of threat, but they are watching Europe very closely. We've heard Donald Trump talk about it when he stood up at the UN the other day in New York, and he said, "You're ruining your countries." That's what he was getting at about the West. There was definitely a sense of saying, you are not preserving the identity of your Christian countries. There's probably, highly likely, going to be a Muslim mayor as well in New York. And there are whispers now about what will that mean? What does that mean for the complexion of a city? Quite literally, how will that change? And in the mayoral debate, he was criticising Cuomo for not going to visit a mosque. And of course, people here now in the media are going, hang on, when did it become necessary to stand as a mayor in New York, a very Jewish city, and say that you have to go and visit a mosque? So the dial is turning a little. That conversation is making its way here. There's no doubt about it, but we are way ahead of them in terms of numbers, in terms of influence, in terms of power, with people in the UK that we might consider to be even, I would say, some pretty fundamentalist Islamic views that we've been seeing all over social media in the last few days particularly.
It's scary, Bev. It's really scary what's happening here in the UK. I know you know it, and I'm sure you'll be telling the Americans all about it. The other thing I want to briefly get your thoughts on, because I don't want to take too much of your show up here, but digital ID, because, you know, having worked in the tech sector myself, I know how big the tech companies are on pushing this, and particularly in America. I know you can get digital forms of your ID on your iPhone and things like that. Is it just less of a concern to Americans because they're so fragmented between different states?
They're very used to showing ID. So this afternoon, I went and bought a couple of bottles of wine from the supermarket. And even when you're buying wine, they need to take your ID, they take your driving license, they punch in your date of birth. They're used to that. But particularly under Donald Trump, They talk about freedom. They talk about the individual. They talk about a smaller state. I think they would never, at the moment under this administration, they would never consider the kind of centralised digital ID in collaboration with the state and big business, which is what ours will end up being. It will be pharmaceutical companies. At the moment, that is way off the agenda of this government. In the next term, who would it be next time? Possibly. I could absolutely see a Democrat government maybe going for that, but it's not something they feel they need here. And this principle of individuality and independence and personal responsibility, the rhetoric around that is completely different here in America than it is in the UK. You know, it is a form of socialism, it's a form of socialist control, and we definitely do not have a socialist government here in America at the moment, quite the opposite.
Well, that's welcome news, at least there, Bev. Unlike here in Britain, as you know,
It gives me hope. It gives me hope.
Yeah, me too, Bev, it does, because, I mean, we listen to, a lot of people here listen to Donald Trump, and they look over at America, we look across the pond and we go, if only we had that kind of leadership here in the United Kingdom, because it does really feel to me that Britain is facing this existential crisis, not just culturally, but also we're being attacked with digital ID and everything else that's happening here in Britain. Bev, listen, I
you know what it comes down to? Oh, well, anyway, we've got lots more to talk about.
Well, yeah,
it just comes down to national identity. America first, America first. You never hear a politician say Britain first. It would sound, we have been conditioned to think that is a slogan from some sort of nationalistic far-right party. It all starts with America first, and we don't do that. And they are very clear. They're very clear on who they are here, and we are not.
Yeah, I totally agree, Bev. I totally agree. And this is why I say every week, and this is why the Late Show Live is so important, because what's going on in America, America sneezes, we catch a cold. British people need to listen up and know what's going on in America. Bev Turner, absolute superstar. Can't wait to watch your show tonight. I will see you very soon. Coming up on the late edition, though, we have a lot more to go through, including all your front pages again, and a little bit of an inside story, which we'll get to. Join us after the break.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday Five.
You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, on the front page of The Independent, top British Army Chief Field Marshal Lord Richards has been given false hope by the West as they can't beat Russia, supposedly. This is very, very interesting. So this is a front page here, if I can find it in a second. I seem to have lost it, actually. Anyway, the front page of The Independent.
Yeah.
Ukraine can't beat Russia, warns British top army chief. Now, you know what? Listen, I don't think this is entirely surprising. I don't think anyone thinks that Ukraine are going to storm into one of the most powerful countries in the world and destroy Russia, right? This is not about victory over Russia. This is about victory of Ukraine and recapturing their lost land. Now, it seems to me, Leo, that more than likely, with Trump pushing the peace agenda, that Zelensky's going to have to come to some sort of agreement with Putin over the land.
Well, Putin, it's just been reported that Putin has apparently made an offer to, I think to Trump or to Witkoff to swap, for Ukraine to swap Donetsk and Luhansk, which Russia already controls the majority of, for Zaporozhye and Kherson. So they'll be swapping, a fifth or a quarter of the land in Donetsk and Luhansk. So Russia would get that. And then Russia would hand back the Zaporozhye and Kherson, which forms the land bridge to Crimea, which doesn't really make any sense to me, because that's a lot of land being swapped for a little bit of land. I know Donetsk and Luhansk is the industrial heartland and all the rest of it. There's a lot of rare minerals and stuff, but I don't know, to fight so long and get that. And I mean, for all that people say that Ukraine doesn't have a chance, Russia doesn't have a chance. It's losing 50,000 men a month at the moment, dead and wounded. They're only recruiting like 30,000, and it's lost pretty much all its fighting capability. It's a shell of what it used to be. So it doesn't make sense for that to be the swap. But if it is, Zelensky should bite his hand off.
Well, Linda, because I want to ask you this as well. I think this is really important, because what he's actually saying here, if we move slightly just from that, I would like to circle back to that. He's saying triumph can't happen unless NATO forces joining the fight. Now, we are NATO is a defensive organisation. It will be, I think it will be exceptionally dangerous.
What's the best form of defence?
Well, yes, you might say that, but part of NATO is that we will only respond if we're attacked, right? And we haven't been attacked yet. So Linda, I think there's a lot of these big army chiefs and generals across NATO are calling for us to get involved. And listen, I want Putin to be stopped as well. But I think we might set a dangerous precedent for NATO if we do something like that.
But I think we have to send a signal from NATO to the US in particular that we're going to be strong and we're going to stand firm on this. It's really important that NATO actually raises its game here. Also, I think...
How can we do that without actually engaging in a hot war with Russia?
Well, we might have to start with a limited level of aggression. I'm sure that is a possibility. But also, we've given a commitment to the US that we are going to raise our defence spending to 5%. And that's going to be... Poland's at 8%. That's going to be quite hard to do, because what will change everything is if President Trump decided to send some Tomahawk missiles into Ukraine. That could be a very decisive factor in this situation.
Maybe from what Leo's saying, Putin might be changing his tune. Paul?
Well, Trump needs to decide whose side he's on, and I think the missiles question is one of the most important litmus tests for that, because that would allow Ukraine to defend itself and to get back onto the offensive.
He's kind of sitting on the fence a little bit, isn't he, about that?
Isn't he just? Yeah. And Lord Richards, no relation, is making the point that we've just strung them out to dry. We've let them die in their droves, and we haven't given them the armaments that they need to defeat Russia. The only good outcome from this is for the Russians to be expelled settle back to their border. If you give them land, they'll come back for more. And that's the only lesson of history, is if you appease dictators, they just keep coming back.
We have a huge number of migrants in Europe, and they're desperate to show their allegiance to Western Europe. And what better way than to press gang them into conscription?
I mean, the North Koreans are fighting in Ukraine, of course, aren't they? So they've been conscripted.
But they're from North Korea. They haven't come over to North Korea illegally. Anyway, look, we've got to run through front pages again before we get into that rabbit hole. Let's start with the Sun, shall we? Andrew, Axis, Fergie, Party, the Daily Mail. Andrew told the Met to dig up dirt on Virginia Giuffre. The Independent. Ukraine can't beat Russia, warns top British Army chief. The Observer. Emily Maitlis says he lied to me about Epstein, poor you. Mirror, Virginia's revenge on Andrew. The Telegraph. Andrew sought to dig up dirt. The Sunday Express. Thousands of perverts to be freed from jail early. The Sunday Times. Spy suspect was stopped with suitcase full of cash. Well, there you have it. That is all we have time for on the Late Edition tonight. Thank you all very much for your contributions and comments here. Linda, Peter, Paul, Peter's gone now. Leo, Linda, Paul, thank you very much. Big show. We'll be back tomorrow from 9 o'clock on Alex Armstrong Tonight. Until then, I will see you very soon.
Thank you, Alex. We've got another exclusive for you this evening from the only journalist that was given an advanced copy of Virginia Giuffre's book. We're also going to be looking at the protests in America today, and also, of course, in the UK. Big protest in London, all about digital ID. Is the momentum on that continuing? That and a lot more from Washington.
There's 2 weeks remaining in our latest, greatest giveaway. You could be in the driving seat of this Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxurious home from home comes with all the mod cons. Plus, you can use it with your current driving licence. We'll also boost your bank account with a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. It only takes one entry